Good evening, everyone. How you doing? Recognize that everyone this time we have a presentation, and we will begin very shortly. All right. It is now 6 o'clock on the dot, and I'm going to respect your time. So we're going to begin. My name is Talisha Drayton. I am the Director of School Attendance and Discipline Services, and it's so great to see you all here tonight. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come learn about some information in our schools. So tonight we have several topics. We're going to be talking about the ADAPT program, as well as bullying and school discipline. All right. So the first person that we have on the agenda is Ms. Melinda Allen. Yes. Oh, sorry. Linda Allen. Sure. The clicker is not working tonight, so I'm your clicker. I'm going to be. All right. Before Alan began, I just wanted to talk about. I'm from the Department of School Support and Community Engagement. In our department, we deal with discipline and attendance, and we also have individual on our team that do prevention and intervention work. But tonight is all about you all. We want to be able to educate you all on some things. And as I mentioned earlier, the first topic we're going to talk about is ADAPT, alcohol and drugs. And I'm going to be her clicker. For some reason, our clicker is not working tonight. But Linda.
Thank you very much. And I need you to be my timekeeper, because I will get up here for an hour if she lets me. I should have been a preacher maybe. But anyway, my name is Linda Ballinger, and I am with the Student Support Services and have been with the school district for about 23 years. This past 10 years, we started the Department of Alternative Programs and Services, and we're looking at what we needed to do for our students that was a little bit different and a little bit more preventative as far as substance use goes. So we started the ADAPT program, which stands for Alcohol and Drug Alternative Program for Teens. And believe it or not, when I first started this, I was thinking it was mostly going to be our high school students and middle school, but we do have students as young as second grade that have started experimenting. So we do know that substances are out there, and so what we want to do is make sure we provide as many interventions and resources that we can. Well, I could just talk about it. It won't go on. So basically, the first couple of slides that I had, here we go. Here's ADAPT right here. And as I said, the program's been in place for about 10 years and has gone through a couple of changes. And so now we're making sure that we are addressing every issue, because substance use is, as you see, a barrier to learning. What are some ways that you think it might be a barrier to learning if a student's engaging or using illicit substances? They're not coming to school a lot of times. If I'm vaping, I'm going to be going to the restroom a lot, lots of tardies, so I could be accumulating a lot of discipline referrals. My studies are going to go down, my grades are going to go down, and most of the time that they get in high school, they've already dropped out or getting into a lot of trouble with a lot of suspensions. So it is a barrier to learning, and it also, the biggest thing is it affects their brain, and so they're not able to learn like they normally would. So age of first use, this is a little surprising for a lot of people, but grades 7 through 10 we know are a crucial time period in students' lives where their brains are developing and they're learning some really good coping skills and technical skills. But this is also the period of initiation of substance use, and it is getting earlier and earlier, and more than half of 12th graders who report ever having used an illicit drug had done so while in grades 7 through 10. And we're seeing those same patterns that the nation is seeing. We're seeing them as well here in Charleston County. And our top 3 issues, not surprising, are the nicotine vaping, because they're so easily accessible. So we'll see a lot of students with those. Marijuana and cannabis is also known, and that could be in the form of the THC vapes, which again are very easily accessible, or it could be in edibles, which are making a comeback again, where students are able to buy these in different places, groceries, not always grocery stores, but some of the convenience stores. And then we have alcohol as the third highest that we've got. And we are also seeing another trend coming where students are taking pills again. And that is very frightening, because we just got a report from the DEA that 7 out of 10 pills now contain fentanyl. So if we find out that any student is trying to take another student's Adderall or Percocets or anything, that we want to make sure we get them help as soon as possible and intervene immediately, because time is of the essence. As just far as South Carolina, it's kind of hard to see those. Teenagers in South Carolina are 2.69% less likely to have used drugs in the last month than the average American. So that's a good thing. And we did got a statistic today that the vaping had dropped, as well as marijuana use among South Carolina students. And for the first time ever, we actually, as a Charleston County School District, participated in the Communities That Care survey. And so we'll be getting that data where each school we can show how many students are using as opposed to are not. And I guarantee you these kids are going to be surprised, because when you ask them, they're all going, oh, everybody uses. No, they don't. About 80 to 90% of our students are not using, and we want to focus on that this year, which is our social norms campaign. And I'm just going to go through these stats because we are on a time crunch, and I want to make sure everybody understands what the program entails. So district snapshot, during 23-24 school year, there were 768 nicotine or tobacco referrals. I would say all of those were the vaping. I've only seen 1 cigarette in the whole 10 years that we've been doing this program. And that was the ones that were reported, because we do know that there are instances where they do not report them in the data log. And that landed our tobacco infractions out of every infraction that a students get in the 15th highest for the district. Again, the top substances I've already talked about is electronic cigarettes and vapes, cannabis or marijuana, alcohol, liquor, and prescription drugs. Top grade levels, 9th grade. I don't know what happens in the summer or 8th grade, but pay attention. These kids are, I don't know what happens. I don't know if they meet older kids and they're hanging out with them, but that's why we have the highest in our 9th grade. Next is 10th grade. Then our 8th grade, y'all, made it up to the top 4 grade levels of infractions for illicit substances. And there were 208 students. And as I said, they have gone down as low as 2nd and 4th grade. There were 383 students that were referred to ADAPT this past year. And if we could go to the next one. We're basically focusing on 4 high-level strategies, and we added we do awareness through information dissemination, so we want to make sure that all the schools get posters and that they get posters and information that we can have, even having things like over here, like we do at our booth, to make sure that we've got all that out there. And we get that through the social workers or the school counselors, and we want to make sure that you guys have everything that you need as well as the students. We also do prevention through education, and that's the school staff, the students, and parents. And we also have a CCSD vaping program, which is also like the substance use one. If you could click on that real quick, Ms. Rachel. Oh, okay. We always had access. Okay. Anyway, I can get that to you if you're interested in seeing the vaping program. But we do have a strategic plan and are even going into the schools and creating comprehensive plans for that school, particularly based on their data. So if I came to Camp Road, I would come and meet with their team and talk about what are you seeing. I would look and see what the infractions were, and then just not only what students might be getting in trouble for, but what they're seeing around school. What are the other students saying or they're seeing when they go in the bathroom? And we would create a program around that had all these strategies. We also do problem identification and referral, and those are for students who may have a little bit bigger problem, bless you, and that need something more than just an educational program. And we would have someone come in and meet with them from Student Support Services one-on-one, or to hold groups with them to talk about a little bit more in-depth substance use issues. Then we also have identification where students who are in dire need and who are showing us that they have a little bit more than we can help at a school level. Those students are always referred out to substance use, accredited substance use facilities or treatment. We have family and community engagement, such as we're doing here, screening, just health fairs, wellness weeks, agency and church trainings, prevention programs. So anything that you need, if you're interested in us coming to your church or me hooking you up with some people that can come, I'll be glad to do that. Parenting programs, we're going to be starting those up October 26th, and it's a virtual program, and it's called Tough Conversations, and it's for parents of school-age children, primarily middle and high school. And there will be speakers from all over. Sometimes they come from other states, but the first speaker will talk on a mental health issue such as anxiety in our children. And then the second speaker will touch on substance use and how it correlates with that, and that a lot of students are using substances to offset the feelings that they're having with depression and anxiety. So each month we do that. It'll be the third Thursday of every month, and it'll be going out in the principal's packet. We also have requests for support if you want support, and it doesn't have to be necessarily for your student here at Camp Road. Thank you. It could be for an older student or a family member. You could just call and fill out the support request and say, I need help for X, Y, and Z, and we'll make sure we put you in touch with someone that can help. Because what we were talking about earlier, as Talisha said, we want to treat not only the whole child, but the family as well. That's what those wraparound services are about. And then we have community resources and referrals, assessment for the student, individual plan for the students. We also have the MUSC school wellness checklist. Road is a part of that, I believe. And so they would get points for having a substance use prevention program and points for having speakers come in, because we can't just talk to the children without talking to the parents and open up that dialogue so that when they come home, you can talk a little bit more about them. And then the teachers also will know what to do. We have MUSC school wellness checklists, as I mentioned, the community task forces, grants, as I mentioned, the CTC survey. I'm really excited about that. And our social norms campaign is what we're going to be pushing off as soon as possible. Just to give you, this is Ms. Drayton's favorite part, and she's like, you can't come talk without showing them some things. But these are just, it's hard to see on here, but these are things that look just like pins, and you cannot tell the difference between, and it writes. And you cannot tell the difference between that writing pen and a vape, but they are vapes. Up here, you've got all the edibles, the Fritos. They look identical to a regular Frito. The only thing that you're going to notice, if you pay attention, is there might be a little tiny thing that says THC infused. Other than that, I could be sitting here talking to my teacher and my friends eating a bag of edibles, and no one would know about it. And there are some kids that think it's really cool to bring it to school and offer it to their friends without them knowing it. So please make sure your children know, do not take anything from their friends. And as you see up here, we also have the highlighters that look identical to highlighters, but they are also vapes. And the most recent thing that's come out besides the actual pens is they're vapes, but they have gaming systems on them. and they've got all kinds of little apps that they can use, but it's not targeted for us. We don't do gaming. Well, if you do, you're not going to do it at work, or you shouldn't be doing it at work. But it's targeted for the kids, and as you see, there's some gummy stuff down here too that looks just like everything else. I've got two more, I think, to Ms. Drayton on here that they could see. Oh, no. Okay, so the Scan Me resources, all you have to do right here is if you want to take a picture of that QR code, we've got a lot of different resources on there, including the parent support request or anything else that you need to do with substance use. We'll be glad to help you. And if we can't do it, we'll get you in touch with the right people. Okay.
Thank you so much. So I want to just pause right here because I don't know about you, but I'm feeling really irritated that I can't see the screen the way that I want to. So I want to publicly apologize that this is not the best display. We are in a fancy school that requires some type of key thing to turn the light down. And so I've already gone with maintenance to see if they can assist with that. But rest assured that even after this session, you guys will be able to see the full version because we publicize everything online through school support. So rest assured you still have a copy of that. So thank you for indulging me. We also doing our SPaCE events like to give room before we go to the next presentation, and we sometimes do it before to make sure we acknowledge the stars in the room. And so we do have a new star in our district that I want to make sure that I introduce you all to. And he didn't know that I was going to do it, but I am, because that's how I am, Dr. Clamp. So Dr. Clamp, if you will please come to the front. Dr. Clamp is our Deputy Superintendent for Charleston County School District. He has joined us this year, and he is my supervisor over all of this good work that we do in Charleston County School District. So I definitely wanted to give pause, sir, so that you can speak to our community and families.
Sure. Thank you, Shabana. And thank you to this team who have put together tonight, parents who are here, a tremendous amount of resources to help and support you. I, like you, am a parent. I have a middle school student and a high school student, of which I'm having conversations about the very topic we were just discussing tonight often. And if I could challenge you with anything, it would be, don't assume that no news is good news. You should definitely be having conversations with your students and being aware of their behaviors, even if you think something has slightly changed. It may have changed because of some stimulus that is not positive. So I appreciate you, Dr. Coakley, and your team for presenting and preparing this material. Thank you for the beautiful meal also. But parents, please utilize these resources. And my family and I are honored to be here in Charleston County serving. And if we can support you in any way, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you.
Thank you. So we just heard from Ms. Ballinger around the ADAPT program. And in the end, after you hear the other two presentations, what we'll do is have that open discussion among each other. We can ask questions, get clarification. So just hold on because more is to come. Now coming to the stage is going to be our very own Heather Anderson's coming. We're going to be talking about bullying, resources and support in CCSD.
Thank you, Dr. Coakley. We're going to change it up a little bit since it is a little difficult to see. I'm going to quickly introduce myself, and then I'm going to let my teammate introduce herself. We're just going to sit here and maybe have a little bit more of an intimate conversation around a very important topic. And I do want to pause for just a second and mirror the remarks from Dr. Coakley and Dr. Clamp, and by saying thank you. Thank you for being here. These are not easy topics to talk about, and we acknowledge that. They are so very important. And it is what I like to say, a to be continued conversation. So this is not a one and done. This is a to be continued conversation around with our culture and climate in our buildings, in your homes, and certainly in our classrooms. So as I mentioned, and Dr. Coakley, my name is Heather Anderson, and I have the privilege of serving as the Interim Director of Counseling Services for CCSD. I do feel like I'm home a little bit because this, as of 12 days ago, was the building that I served in at Camp Road, and so it's so nice to be back here. And again, I just want to say that I'm so thankful that you are here.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Ela Hudson, and I'm the coordinator for school counseling services. So Heather and I work together in our team.
And so we acknowledge, like Dr. Coakley said, some of the slides are harder to see. So we're just going to have more of a conversation. We probably are perhaps going to read you some of the statistics. And also, this is going to be available to you, this presentation. And at any time, Ela and I, Ms. Hudson and I, are very informal. So if you have a question, certainly we will try to answer it. This is kind of a zoom out of where we are as a district around bully prevention and education. Starting, before COVID, there was a bully task force that was sanctioned, and we came together and we're making great progress around bully prevention, education, and reporting protocols. And then COVID happened, and we paused. And then we came back together, and after only about a year, some very important protocols have begun to roll out. And this is the work long before me. And Ela, I don't know if you were on the first one.
But we did have a multidisciplinary and task force. So we had school counselors, school psychologists, administrators that were a part of it, as well as social workers and teachers. And we actually even tapped into our student groups. So we had student voice. We met with our student cabinet that we had at that time. And then we also had touched with our parents. So we even had parent cabinet that participated and gave us feedback before we rolled out the initial bully protocol. So we did tap into all the groups, all the stakeholders to hear their voice about what they felt was happening within the schools with bullying.
So this brief presentation and talk is really an overview of what we now are doing with prevention to intervention. And so we're going to talk about the definition of bullying. We're going to talk about school climate, how that plays an important role. We're going to talk about reporting procedures, investigating procedures, intervention and support, as well as resources for families. So that's our goal for tonight. And this is the national statistics, in which you probably cannot read. But this just talks about some very staggering statistics around bullying prevention. Again, nothing that you may not already know, just to actually highlight a few things. In 2019, the Crime Victimization Survey stated that 22% of 12 to 18-year-olds experience bullying. We know that's a lot higher. Right? These are the people that reported bullying. In 2021, the Youth Survey Risk Survey, 15% of high school students said they had been bullied in the past 12 months. Again, those have been reported. Now, we do a climate data survey here in CCSD to get feedback on bullying, and 77% of elementary and middle school students said that they have had an adult speak to them about bully prevention and protocols. 61% of our high school students stated that. And then 80% of our elementary and middle school students said that an adult had talked to them about preventative measures, about reporting. So again, 61% of our high school. And then the last statistic on this page talks about 76% of high schools said that high school students felt like they could go to an adult, a trusted adult. And that's a really important piece for us as we begin to really talk about sense of belonging and other ways that we prevent bullying behaviors. So as educators and parents, you could probably write this slide, right? These are reasons why students don't report bullying. We know that there are many reasons why kids don't ask for help, but some of the bullets that we listed, bullying can make a child feel helpless. They don't know how to handle it on their own, and they often do not ask for help. Maybe being seen as weak, a snitch, or a tattler. Backlash from the student or students that are doing the bullying. And let's just be honest, we can step into our elementary, middle, or high school self and know that unfortunately at one time we probably have all experienced bullying behavior. So this next one is fear of backlash, but also it can be a very humiliating experience. The other reasons is that kids are bullied may already feel socially isolated and may not feel that anybody can understand. And then also sense of belonging and function of behaviors for middle and high school students and even elementary is really caring a lot about what their peers think and say about them.
So here is our board policy around harassment, intimidation, and bullying. So that is board policy JICFFA. And it is also, you would see this in the handbook that comes home to the parents every year. But we have harassment, and then you can see that's any insulting or dehumanizing action, which negatively impacts another person's emotional, mental well-being. This could happen in person or through technology, and we do know a lot of things happen through technology with our students. And then we look at intimidation, and this is the state definition. So this comes from the State Department of Education. So it's physical, verbal, written, or electronic action, which immediately creates a fear of harm without displaying weapons and without subjecting the accuser to an actual physical attack. And then bullying, we define that as an unwanted, aggressive, deliberate, and repeated act with intention to hurt, insult, and threaten another person in school, on school grounds, in school vehicles, or at school events. So I know sometimes things happen like at the bus stop. That is included as part of school property. So the bus stop would be included in that. And then we also talk about the imbalance of power with bullying, whether that is physical, emotional, or social power. Sometimes we think about one of the things we touch on in our other training about bullying is like if you have the newest iPhone, you might feel like you're better than your friend who may not be able to afford that, and you may say unkind things to them, and that could be seen as bullying as well. And then, of course, our cyberbullying. So that would be bullying that takes place over digital devices such as cell phones, computers, tablets, text messages, text apps, Snapchat. We know things happen on all of those social media sites, sometimes with our students. It can include sharing personal or private information about someone else that causes embarrassment or humiliation. So again, with the bullying, you see that it's usually a repeated thing and a multiple incidents can be considered bullying. But then again, we do have the harassment and intimidation as well that ties into bullying. Because oftentimes if we see harassment happening several times or intimidation, that can bring us to a bullying situation and that we would need to investigate that.
So Ela mentioned some key considerations when we're looking at all of those definitions, and the imbalance of power is the middle one. So that has to happen within the definition of bullying, repeated. And then the imbalance of power can look differently. So that physical imbalance, the symbolic, the economic, the informational, and the cultural. And these are all very important things that people, when we talk about those investigative piece, that school counselors and school administrators are looking into. And then that last piece is the intent to harm. Yep.
But it does also talk about that when you repeat it, does not have to include the same aggressor or the same group of aggressors or student who is bullied different students were bullied. So you may have Johnny that bothers one child one day, and the next day he's moved on to someone else, and the next day somebody else. We can still consider and look at that as bullying because even though Johnny's picking different groups of students, he's still doing some of the bullying behavior.
So this is my favorite part of the presentation. Again, just exhaling and know that a lot of this stuff is heavy, but there are systems in place that schools are implementing around bully prevention and reporting protocols. And a big part of this are social and emotional learning platforms, our wellness platforms that teach students not only how to recognize it, what to do and how to report it. So I like to consider this sometimes if you're coming in as a new middle school student or high school or even elementary, understanding what the definition is very important, but how to react and how to find help is equally important. And then also we really talk about the upstander and this part of this proactive education piece. We don't have the statistic up here, but when we think about the bully, the victim, it's a very small percentage of our students in our building. Upstanders, meaning people who actually witness it, that's the largest percentage of students. And that's where we really want to make sure we're talking about what to do as an upstander about reporting and standing up for people. So the prevention piece is obviously recognizing bullying, standing up safely, responding, and then what I think is the momentum shift in bullying behavior is helping students understand what empathy is and actually how to be an empathy multiplier in a building, meaning like being able to step in someone else's shoes and really teaching the skills to not only recognize but also have empathetic behavior can change the culture and climate of a building. And then lastly, identifying solutions. So schools do this differently, but every school in this district is creating expectations around bullying behavior and reporting protocols. Now, do we have room to grow? Absolutely. But every building has school-wide expectations. They run platforms like PBIS. All of these things help support a positive and sense of belonging, strong school culture and climate in buildings. And so while we have these curricula, we have these things in place, it's an all hands on deck stakeholder to be able to make sure that we're helping our students, but we're also helping our children at home and really reinforcing these things, and also how to report is a big part of it.
So here we have our reporting features, so which you segue into perfectly, but we encourage our students to talk to their teachers and other staff members. We highly encourage every student to have one person, at least one person in their building that they feel comfortable with, and hopefully parents are encouraging their students to be able to identify that one or two people. Also, you know, parents can help with reporting as well. If you see something, report it. You know, nothing is ever too small. If you see something, definitely report it. And then we also have our gaggle that comes through security. So they are tracking everything that students are saying or doing through their devices. And so if they see anything that pops up that is concerning, they push it to the schools so that the schools will get in touch with that student as well as the parents and talk to that student about what is happening. And then also we have Speak Up, where our students can send in a message if they're seeing something. It doesn't have to be just about bullying, it could be about numerous things. And they can send an email from their school email, and it goes to our security team, and then they will disseminate how it needs to go. And then also schools have created their own systems to report bullying. They may have a Google form, they may have a box that they can put an anonymous note in. So all of our schools have a way to have students report what they're seeing and what's happening.
This next slide is just a poster of the Speak Up and the different number and way to get in touch for students and parents if you see something that you want to report. And then there's the investigation piece. Again, I'm going to read this. So the recommendation is that schools investigate any type of report, bullying report, within 2 days, and then that includes communication with families. And in that investigation piece, at that time, all things that are once reported as bullying, the school counseling team, your admin team, they're going to look at and talk to many people and determine if this is bullying, harassment, intimidation. All of these things go into this investigation piece. Then The next recommendation is to complete the investigation within 10 days and a follow-up with all parties involved. And I know that's a very simplified way to show you how all of this is working, but it's very systemic, meaning that this is the recommendation that schools follow. It just may look differently in an elementary school than it does in a high school. This talks a little bit more about the interview process after an incident has been reported. Schools then conduct an interview. They review existing data and determine if bullying behavior has occurred. Remember, the criteria is that imbalance of power, the intent, repeated behavior, and behaviors a form of aggression. So the actual, I'm just going to read this to you. Behaviors that are aggression does not always equal bullying. So there are certain criteria. It doesn't mean that something is not going to be addressed if it is aggression. And then the next slide, I will turn it over, and it talks about interventions, another really important piece to this puzzle.
So of course, it doesn't just stop at investigating and figuring out what happens. We definitely are going to put interventions in place for the students involved, for the student that may be displaying the bullying behavior, as well as the student that may have been bullied. So of course, we're going to communicate and collaborate with our parents and our guardians to help and support all of our students. We may do some social skills instruction, and that might be with the school counselor, maybe meeting with the student for a period of time to help them with those social skills instruction. Of course, we do tier 1, which means everything for everybody. Heather did mention our curriculum that we have. So second steps is happening usually in the elementary schools, and then we have Rethink Ed that's happening in our secondary schools. So those might be things that are utilized when teaching some of those social skills. Depending on where the student is, there might be like a functional behavior assessment that happens where we're looking at the behaviors that the student is displaying and then doing a more formal behavior intervention plan for that student. And then, of course, meeting with the school counselor, the social worker may be involved depending on what the situation is. School psychologists, we have some mental health and wellness coaches that work with students in our buildings as well. And then, of course, increased support by school staff. So we would definitely be checking in with that student, and groups of students or whoever needs to check in. We would still be, continuing to support them.
So coming to the end of the presentation is what can we do? And I say collectively we, because I do feel like all stakeholders, all hands on deck to support bully prevention, and then also the reporting protocols. So when we talk to any student or we investigate a report, we're always offering support, always listening, working together, making sure that all students feel safe. We're developing confidence through those programs that Ela mentioned, Second Step and Rethink Ed. Those are skill-based programs that give students skills to understand definitions, practice, role play, thinking about sentence starters, what to do if someone does approach you in a bullying behavior, and also what to do as an upstander. Again, that practice, self-efficacy and self-esteem are some of the most important things we can do for our kids at every age. And then also that communication piece. And then on the last page, which you will get, is more resources for you to continue this partnership. And that's what I really like to think about this when we talk about bully prevention, education, and reporting protocols.
Thank you all so much. It was very, very good information. Next on the agenda, we'll be talking about discipline. Dr. C is more stars.
So we have the response. If you will please stand and say hello. Let's take the microphone very small. The response one, our board member, I'm going to let her introduce her board and her purpose for being here tonight. Here, so, you know.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you so very much. It's good to see everyone. And this is a very hot topic. We have to keep our schools safe, keep our children safe. So I'm on top of all that. So if you have any questions for me, let me know. I serve on James Island Constituent School Board right here on James Island. Dr. Temple is our chair, and it's 5 of us that we love serving our community. We love serving our children. And it's funny that we talk about bullying because when we get these transfers like Dr. Coakley sent to us, they send them to us, and we get some situations where they say, my child is being bullied, I have to go to another school. And sometimes that's not the case. So I'm glad to be here because I do have some questions and we're going to move forward. Thank you so very much.
You're so welcome.
Next, so I want to make sure I can refer to that final hot topic. Is Mr. Fine? So we can please step and introduce ourselves, sir.
Yes, I am Jeff Fine. I'm on the constituent board in Johns Island, and I'll be out of town when we have the meeting in that area. So I thought I'd attend. This is very informative. A lot we've learned as constituent boards, and our job is actually the well-being of the school and the safety of these kids. We do not like any issues ever to approach us, and we try to do everything we can, be in the community as a face. But I appreciate you, Dr. Coakley, and
All right, thank you all and welcome. Now we're on our last topic of this evening from Dr. Shavonna Coakley. She will be talking on school discipline. Okay?
Use this mic even though my voice is loud enough. And we're going to talk about school discipline. So you guys just heard about the ADAPT program. You just heard about bullying victims and so forth. All of that wraps around into school discipline. So when the school district and the teams have done everything that you guys think we should be doing to support students, and when all of those supports fail, what happens next? School discipline comes into play. But I've got good news for you. The reason why we created our SPaCE events is because we believe in full transparency of what should be taking place in Charleston County School District. So it gives an opportunity for parents who might have students that might be a little bit challenging to know ahead of time what's going to happen if their student is found violating anything under the ADAPT umbrella, bullying, the intimidation, threats that we've seen roll out across our district and nationwide over the last week. But it also gives you as a parent the right to know what you are owed when your student is identified as a student for violating the Charleston County Progressive Discipline Plan. Or you might have heard it affectionately called the PDP. So the PDP is a progressive discipline plan that has been outlined to really make sure that school administrators use fair and equitable practices across the district. So Shavonna was a student at Camp Road on Monday, and she became a student at Morningside Middle School. The rules and consequences should not change. That is the purpose of the progressive discipline plan. School administrators have the right to use the PDP as a guide of the most excessive consequence, OSS, ISS, that could be implemented, but we expect for all interventions to take place. Students with IEPs or 504 plan are not excused from the process. We just make sure that we follow all rules under that student's IEP plan. That IEP program is set to make sure students receive accommodations and support around academics and behaviors, but it does not excuse them from the process. So I want to make sure that I say that up front as we move forward with talking about student discipline. So because I know you can't read it, and with my glasses on, I'm struggling to read it. You don't have to worry about me reading it directly from here, but remember, you're going to get a copy of this. So the first thing I want you to know, and there's a video that we released over the weekend. If you were to go to our Facebook page, not the official CCSD page, but the Department of School Support Facebook page, you will see a video that talks about codes, titles, and infractions. All codes, titles, and infractions come from the State Department of Education in conjunction with the Federal Department of Education. And then at the local level, which would be CCSD, we are expected to implement those supports. So CCSD does not make up the code, the titles, or the infraction. Sometimes you will hear a student or a parent say, well, where did that come from? It came from the State Department of Education. Who did they get it from? The Federal Department of Education. So federal, state, and local expectations are provided to make sure that we are having school climate and culture that's conducive to learning. And we've already talked about the PDP and so forth. So we can go to the next slide. So there are 3 PDPs in Charleston County School District. There's an elementary PDP, and that's our kindergarten scholars, all up to 5th grade scholars. You're going to hear me call them scholars because I believe that every student that enters Charleston County School District can be a scholar. I don't care what their mode of learning is or how they enter. They can be a scholar. So we have an elementary PDP, we have a middle school PDP, and we have a high school PDP. We only have one bus PDP, and that would be at the elementary level. For middle school and high school behaviors that occur on the bus, our general PDP would be applied. Our general PDP for middle school and high school could be applied. When there are violations that lead to a disciplinary hearing, there are 2 types of hearings that take place in Charleston County School District. The first type of hearing is called a DOS level hearing, and that is with a hearing panel within my office, the Department of School Support. We apply consequences that can be returned to school all the way through placement in an alternative program. At the DOS hearing level, we do not expel students. So what behaviors might warrant a DOS level hearing? Profanity towards an adult, profanity towards a student, hit, kick, push, fighting, major disruption 2, because we have 2 levels for major disruption 2 and a major disruption 3. Major disruption 3 is a full-blown out fight or some type of behavior that causes our school to halt. It can be anywhere between group fights or a student making a threatening statement or causing fear, or a student running out of the building or running around the building, or a student entering a school that he or she should not be on that campus for that day. Okay? So our constituent board hearings, where you just saw Mr. Fine and Reverend Smalls stand up and talk about, they conduct our nighttime hearings. Those nighttime hearings are designed for students who violate a DOS level hearing, or they commit a level 3 infraction, and a level 3 infraction in the state of South Carolina is considered criminal offenses. So you have on-campus criminal offenses, and you have off-campus, outside of school criminal offenses. This is where I'm going to pause and bring back what we heard one of our speakers talk about, and that would be incidents that occur at the bus stop. So the minute your scholar gets to the bus stop, that's considered school. If your scholar goes to a school activity, a football game, a basketball game, a school lacrosse game, that's still considered school. What if the football, basketball, lacrosse game is at a different school? That is still considered school. Field trips. If your scholar leaves his or her school and they go on a field trip, that is still considered school. What if the incident happened on the weekend during the school year and is considered a 700 criminal offense? It still impacts the scholar. These are the reasons why we have these SPaCE events, to make sure that our families understand exactly how school discipline, plus the behaviors that you've heard us describe and the level of support, is here to support your student, but then we also have consequences when we need to apply them. When we talk about the levels of the hearings, here's what's important for you to understand. Whether that incident only results in an ISS, an OSS, an admin parent conference, or a disciplinary hearing, you, as the parent, have the right to appeal. Here's an example. True story. Shavana, 12th grade, North Charleston High School. She was being bullied, severely bullied at North Charleston High School. It was my turn to get up and do a presentation. And my bully was in the classroom. This would have been 1995. And my presentation was on the importance of having metal detectors in the school. And my bully looked and said, "You are so stupid. Why should we have metal detectors in the classroom?" That was the straw that broke Shavana's back. Because Shavana picked up a chair, and that chair was going. I can laugh at it now. But Shavana, if she had existed in 2024, would have been looking at the CCSD PDP for assault, simple. Regardless of what provoked me, correct? Now, we had evidence of this bully in the school building. She even wrote about me inside the school newspaper. It went out to everybody in the school. I'm still waiting for it to show up on Facebook, to be honest with you, because it's still out there. I've been trying to find all the newspapers. Can't get them all. And my mom said to me, "You didn't get suspended, but I don't like that there's a referral for what you did. I'm going to appeal it." That's her right. Now, she was wrong, but it is her what? Right. And it's your right to appeal if you disagree with the decision of the school administrator. So when it's appealed, if the assistant principal, in this case, in my case, the assistant principal wrote the referral. So my mom appealed it to the principal. The principal sits down, talks with my mom and me. We go over it. I present all the evidence. I presented him with the school newspaper that he allowed to be printed and disseminated across 1,500 students in the school. The teacher wrote letters about what had occurred and the ongoing issues, right? And they overturned that appeal. They overturned the decision of the school because they realized what had occurred. I can remember in that moment looking at my mom and asking, "But was it right for me to pick up a chair and somersault it across the room to that big giant?" And she looked at me and said, "It wasn't right, but was it right for her to do X, Y, Z?" So I'm sharing this with you because you've got to have conversations with your scholars about what occurred, because when we go into an appeal, it could end up in front of these two people here. Because if the school administrator stands their ground and say, "No, we're not going to overturn the decision," and you still want to move forward with it, then it goes before your constituent board. And then your constituent board would make a decision if they're going to keep that coding and the consequence or overturn it. And if you as a parent still disagree with that decision, the last stop would be before our board of trustees. And our board of trustees will look at the referral and make a decision. If you're wondering what happened in my situation, we walked away with that referral. And I said, we're going to keep it because I did it. If y'all want to hear the rest of the story, we can talk after this. It's a good one. It's a good one, I promise. So that final review, it is going to go before the CCSD Board of Trustees, and that's it. Now, I wouldn't be truthful if I didn't tell you there is another step. And that other step is you can go before common plea, or some people like to say civil court. And that's with anything. That could be with a regular simple office referral, or it could be with a discipline hearing, okay? There's only one incident that the superintendent has the authority to step in, and we'll talk about that one incident, okay? So what happens about if your child is suspended? You should always get it in writing. If the school calls and say your child's being suspended, they should also be backing it up with saying the office referral has been emailed to you. Or I sent a copy of that office referral home with the student. That is important for you to have your documentation of what occurred, because you don't know if you want to appeal it or not, right? So the documentation of what occurred should be sent home to you. If you want to appeal, you have 10 school days to appeal what occurred. That's with an office referral. If you were going to a disciplinary hearing and the disciplinary hearing gave a result, you would still have 10 school days to appeal whatever the board or the DOS hearing level officer panel decided in that hearing. So it's never, the intent is always to make decisions that are in the best interest of the school safety climate first, right? But we understand that there are some families that might disagree. And in some cases, my team will tell you we've had some scholars who wrote their own appeal letter because they disagree with the decision. We honor what's given, but we also want to make decisions that are right for Charleston County School District when it comes down to safety and climate in the building. All right, we can go on to the next slide. So before we leave, there was one incident I told you that only the superintendent has the authority to overturn. Does anyone know, non-CCSD people, please, does anyone know what that one incident could be? I did. I see you thinking. Something detrimental. Something that was a hot topic last week across the nation. That's right. So if a student brings a gun, Mr. Fine, a handgun, a shotgun, a rifle on our campus, federal and state law says that's an automatic 365 days expulsion, calendar days, period. So I just talked to you about appeals. You can appeal that, but the Board of Trustees will have to uphold the 365 days expulsion, calendar days. The superintendent can step in if there are extenuating circumstances. And when I say extenuating, I mean it got to be extenuating. We're going to pronounce all the syllables in extenuating. And the best example to give would be, I allowed my child to drive to school because his car was broken. I, as a parent, neglected to remove all my items from that car, and my child didn't know anything, like honestly didn't know anything that was going on. We're still going to follow the process. And what's that process? It's going to our board. Our board is going to enact the 365 days. Parents going to appeal. It'll go to the Board of Trustees. The Board of Trustees will enact the 365 days. Maybe the superintendent is asked to reconsider because of the extenuating circumstances. Does that make sense? That doesn't mean the superintendent have to do it. If they say no, the same appeal process still applies, where you may appeal either to common pleas or civil court, whichever one that you like to use, okay? So that is the only incident that the superintendent has the authority to step in and weigh in on, because we're supposed to look at the circumstances. Students who knowingly bring a gun on school campus knowingly have a gun inside their vehicle, knowingly know that they are causing a threat or they're intimidating folks with weapons or even with their words to cause harm, they face expulsionary measures. Does that make sense? All right. So we're going to pause here because you just got a lot of information. A lot of information from 3 different presenters. And we've been talking. So this is the opportunity where you now get to engage with us and ask those questions or talk about some ahas that you have now been made aware of. And we're going to have Ms. Drayton come forth and lead this part. This is no question is a silly question. No question will offend us. Seek understanding so we can clarify. But if there is something specific for you and your scholar that really should be dealt with separately and not in front of others, I would say let's deal with that separately. Let's ask general questions. But if you are here because you have something personal that's about you and your scholar, then I'm going to assign someone from CCSD to support you so we can make sure that we take that concern and deal with that accordingly, because we believe in making sure that we solve our problems, but we want to do it in a way that's going to be productive. Okay?
All right. Thank you, Dr. Coatley. And we will have a note taker, so I'm going to come around and bring the mic to you all so you all can answer. But before I begin, I would like to talk about SPaCE in general. So SPaCE is student, parent, and community engagement. It's an extension platform from the BOT meetings, giving the community an opportunity to be educated, to address hot topics, and also to have discussion. And that's why we're here tonight. So we talk about the 3 hot topics, one of the 3 hot topics here tonight. So the first question that we had, and this is my favorite part because we get to hear from you all right? The first question that we have is, what was the most valuable piece of information received from the presentation? And you all don't have to speak at once, but I would love to hear from you all. I'm having it in my phone so I can walk to you all, get closer. What was the most valuable piece of information received from the presentation? Anybody? Come on.
Hosting these because I might know what it is as a parent and my background, but for regular stakeholders don't know that all these options are out there. So I do think it's important that we get this out more and more to families across.
I agree as well.
We're working hard, and there's a lot of protocols and places for parents to go and supports for admin to go and collaborative conversations. I don't know if all families know about all the great things that are available to bring.
Thank you. I agree. Everyone being on the same page, knowing the same information, being consistent. What about you?
No, I was just saying, thank you so very much. Ms. Anderson, thank you for all the information and the resources that we have for our students. I can recall an incident in my church where one of our young little fella witnessed bullying. The little kid didn't say anything to his mom and dad, but when they brought him to visit the church, my scholar said to me, he's being bullied at school. And I said, tell me what's happening. And he explained, not so necessarily bullying, but picked on, which is a form. And we were able to squash that. So we got to encourage, and I'm glad that you have that box that they can anonymous put stuff in. They can go to somebody, because our kids really need it. And we really, really, really need to encourage them. It's okay to talk. And that's another thing about bullying, being called a snitch. You know how that goes. Snitch. We work on the police department together, so we had snitches, But that's what they call them, snitch. And we got to get our kids in the mindset that it's okay to tell. We want to keep you safe. So that's it. Thank you so very much for all this. And I'm a little kind of let down because I told a lot of parents to come out here tonight so you can get it for yourself. But they wait till something happened and then they blow your phone up.
You want to add? But we have 3 more events, so share that information. The next one is October 16 in the Johns Island area, so they can come here.
I was just curious, and I can always talk to Heather more, but the cyberbullying, I think that that's the area that's creating a lot of anxieties, a lot of research around that. I don't know if you guys I've been on, if you've read The Anxious Generation, anybody pass that on? And I think that's a huge conversation here about what's going on with the bullying. It's all on phones and social media, and just, I guess that's a hard conversation. So I know we touched on it, and I know schools are working on that, but I guess I don't know if that's a question of bringing it here as a conversation. It's huge, and research in 2010 and now is astonishing. Meaning mental health and suicide. I work with some higher education students, so something I think about a lot, and I see it a lot in my own college students. So, I think that's a shift that I know you guys are working on a lot. Something we never had in 1990.
That's right. It's so huge that the State Department of Education now recognizes bullying in different categories. So they have to pull a title and definition for what cyberbullying is. And that is around that social media, using an electronic device, to cause that fear and intimidation. And the most important part is with cyberbullying or even bullying and harassment, that even if it occurs off campus, even if students think that they're doing it through TikTok or Snapchat, if it hinders the well-being of a student, if a student's not able to come into the school building because their bully is in that building, that gives the school district ground to address those behaviors. And these are the important parts that our parents have to understand. Like while we say it's their property, we still got to monitor what our children are doing with those phones, what they're doing with those iPads and Chromebooks and everything else that they're giving to the children, because that little margin of error is causing a lot of our scholars to make poor choices, and it's impacting them at the school. Absolutely agree.
Dr. Coatley, I do agree with you. On our constituent district in Johns Island, we have almost half our cases are regarding the cell phones, where they're doing Instagram, TikTok, bullying, saying things. It also causes the fights we have to hear. And we had one that was like the top 5% of the class, and she was being bullied and fought back, and it made her get in trouble. So, like you said, if we can get these parents to take these phones away, to do this. I know it's hard, but it's unreal how many cases I think that Reverend Small has, where it's almost all our cases, most fights and stuff and threats all are coming out from the cell phone, where these kids are all going back and forth all day, weekend, holidays. And it's, we're trying to do what we can, but, a lot of it, I call the parents too, look at their phone, because there's some instigators out there and they just keep it on and on to finally there's a fight and then they're coming in front of us. So,
Thank you so much. Anyone else? Good. Thank you.
I'm a retired teacher. I retired in 2008, and I'll tell you that a lot of things have happened since I've been in the classroom. And I'm so impressed that everybody has started talking about it and doing something. And I'm so impressed with this school's support for parents, children. It's amazing. So I compliment you.
Thank you. And here's what we've told, and I think others can attest to this, that the problem might be small tonight, but then we go to a different location the next month and we see something different. Then we might go to the third presentation and the room is packed and folks are standing outside. So we won't give up. We move around the district for these places because we understand some people can't get to 75 Calhoun, some can't get to Mahawan, some can't get in North Charleston. So we're going to constantly move around the district to touch at least one or two. So don't be discouraged, and we would tell you this same topic is going to be repeated again when we go to Hopcat, because we understand that we haven't touched as many. And then there's a virtual some folks are on virtual as well. So we try to make sure that we just provide as many opportunities. I can't thank the wonderful staff who travel around with me to make sure that we get that opportunity. Yes. So we posted online. We actually posted online. But we go, so we took the presentation first, and then we posted online to make sure folks have access. The amazing Carly Ash in the back made sure that our constituents have access to it. And then even the questions, like the questions come out of here, we post what the question was and what our response is. Even if it's a question we can't answer tonight, we go back to who oversees that work, and we get an answer, and make sure that we publicly post that answer. Yes. You are welcome.
All right, so I'm moving to question number 2. Do you have any questions pertaining to the presentation?
A lot of people know me. I do talk a lot, but we have, what I've noticed is we have a big issue with parents and students vaping at football games. I am actually a local football ref. I've been refereeing for 42 years, been in South Carolina since 2019. What I'm not seeing is any discipline or any referrals for anybody caught vaping. I know where I came from in Gwinnett County, Georgia. If a student was caught with cigarettes, drinking, or vaping, they were expelled from every football game in the future, home game. And I'd like to see maybe CCSD look into that. Also, I guess everybody saw the news. There was a big fight at a football game. I was not reffing that game, but it was brought up at our referee meeting where a player hit another player from another school with his helmet, and the child did not have a helmet on. And he is not being disciplined as far as I know. The only thing, okay. Apologies, no. Okay.
Only because you and I can talk about those
Okay, all right.
But I want to go back to what occurred, what we're seeing about these. So when we see large crowds, right, we know things are going to happen. So one of the things that you might not be privy to, but I am, because I'm a parent of CCSD, and several of us in the room are parents of CCSD, we got emails from school administrators that said, upcoming game changes, clear bag policy, here's the expectations. If you're a middle school student, you're expected to be present with your parent at all times. They're not letting students or anybody enter and exit after the fourth quarter. So some measures have been put in place, because this year, we're going to game 5 for most high schools this year. We're already seeing some behaviors come out that weren't prevalent as before, right? Even with standing and blocking the rails, we've seen that increase. And so SROs and school administrators are constantly having to walk that bar. Ms. Miguel, we check student discipline daily. Like, she is on it. And we can tell you there are referrals being written across the district for behaviors that are occurring at athletic events over the weekend. You may not just be seeing them come before the board because it hasn't met that level of a consequence. So just to be fair and transparent for everybody who's present. But that full list you got right there, we can talk about that on the side.
My what?
That full list that you have typed up right there.
Oh, no, this I just wrote up.
Okay, and in the other list that I brought.
Oh, yeah.
See?
Reverend Smalls, I have a lot of stuff. But just to ask you though, if we do have students that are vaping and caught, will there be referrals written in the future?
So there will be referrals written now. There are
Okay.
referrals written now. So with the things, there are 2 types of things, and we talk about this with the boundaries. We have tobacco violation where it's just tobacco. And then there's some vape products that says THC, THC vapes. We have Everfied that Ms. Boucher and Ms. Rapino talked about. So we're doing drug or illicit substance education, which is a requirement by the State Department of Education. So those scholars who are identified for violating the illicit substance pool now receive that required Everfied or DAC assistance around what do we do. If we're using it more for coping or social emotional, they're being taught how to regulate those feelings in different ways and trying to go to the vape of the problem. If you're asking how you can help, I'm going to tell you what the biggest problem is. It's our convenience stores. It's our neighborhood markets. It's social media. Students can go and order that stuff online. use a different name, and it's coming straight to their home. Straight to their home. So we have to hold the adults accountable for what we see happening. The adults, because again, our children are going to get it, but they're getting it from adults who are giving it to children. And even younger. Yes, thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you.
All right, anyone else have any question pertaining to the presentation? All right, number 3, are there any areas or topics needing additional clarification? And again, we have someone who will be taking notes, and then we're going to provide the answer at a later time, posted on the web. Any areas or topics needing additional clarification? You just got yours. All right, and the last question. Did today's SPaCE meeting provide you with an opportunity to be heard? You think so? That's what we love. That's what we want to do.
In a PTA meeting, you could have this thing as the meeting, because you would have a bigger turnout, and parents would love it, and PTA presidents would love it, school administrators would. I would think, because I think outside the box, that's how you get the most on instead of this.
We would love to be welcome into the PTA meetings, PTO meetings. We even have plans on about meetings.
Yes, we are on attendance.
Sitting at tables as they come in, we're giving them surveys and everything else to try. We are open to any. Our school administrators know that however they want for us to fit in, we're going to give it. Yes. So we're if our school administrators call us. Last year, the folks just laughed at me. If you all have seen Coming to America, have you seen Coming to America? And the guy keeps asking the question, what does the lady say? Whatever you like. Whatever you like. So we'll do whatever the school administrators ask. Yes, so they're aware, and a lot of our administrators have had the same presentation around school discipline and that. We also had together, you were doing training today or tomorrow, and so after tomorrow, training. So the administrators are getting, some of them are turned keen at themselves, so that they can be the voice in your school around it. And we're okay with however they want to deliver the message. So it's whatever choice they want, like we give our scholars. What do you need from us? If it's us making the presentation and then giving it to you, we can do it. Some of them like come see us and then they go and give it us. And it's okay too.
It's so nice that you guys are doing this class, but when we talk about building and vaping, the teacher, the first line I call the first line, are they aware, vaping training, like?
Yeah, so at the beginning of the school year, Ms. Drayton went and did training with all new teachers into CCSD. We actually, thanks to the Superintendent Huggins gave us the ability to actually go before teachers last year. Previous years, we weren't able to actually meet with the teachers. That was more of a building level administrator. Under Superintendent Huggins' leadership, we actually got added to the list where teachers can receive direct training from us. And then within the first 30, 60 days of school, administrators are expected to be sure they roll out PDP training or PDP training. We've created videos, I call them TikTok videos of my voice around here's how you operate with Review 360. But again, if you go to the Department of School Support Facebook page, you're going to see the beautiful banner. We've done videos around attendance, and because parents have been asking, what do we do for our kids in school? What do we submit? So we did a video last week around attendance. I did a video around 650 intimidation and 027 threats. And it's public. We're not hiding anything. Here's what it is. This week, you're going to see 2 new videos come out around attendance as well as school discipline. So we're going to keep those going. Yes.
And that's in the rest of the sorry.
You got it. That's right. You got it. We did. So nothing is new. I am an out of the box, crazy wild thinker, and everybody's going by trade to do it. And so not new, building on it. Thank you for acknowledging that. So we're just gonna get bigger and better as we hear from you. That's why we love the session. So you hear something, we're like, let's get it. I stopped at Facebook pages, so I did. So for the teachers that's in-house and the ones that you all, the ones that we're creating now, it's on the Facebook Department of School Support page. Go make sure that get that actual link to you all. Facebook Department of School Support. Yes, ma'am.
And then also we share those videos on our calendars that we share out to the principals so they can download those videos to put on their website or put on their kiosk or monitor in the building. So hopefully the principal are downloading those videos so they can share out to their parents.
You are welcome.
And we have one last segment, and it's called Takeaway.
Yes.
Dr. C is going to do that one.
All right. So today's takeaway as we close out, I'd like for you to look at somebody next to you and just talk about what's one thing you're going to take away from this moment and leave out here, making sure that somebody else knows what happens. My grandma used to say, or even the pastors in the church used to say, tell somebody to tell somebody to tell somebody else that we are going to do this again. The scholars today, you know what they say? Run it back. Run it back. So we'll be running this back on next month, October 16th at Harkat. We would love for you to join us. There is a QR code. We're asking if you have time before you leave, or you could do it at night to just take that survey. We would love your feedback because that's only how we get better together. Thank you so much for being here this evening. We appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Clamp and team, for being here. Thank you.